Lee Child, it's an absolute honour to meet the man behind Jack Reacher. I saw the film earlier this week and I absolutely loved it. It's such a thriller and definitely well worth the watch. So, I mean, this is a huge phenomenon. You've sold over 60 million books, written 17 novels. Did you ever imagine when you sat down to write The Killing Floor all those years ago that your character would end up being such a smash hit?
You know, imagine is a big word, isn't it? And that's, I always laugh, you know, when you got the cup final or something like that and some kid scores the winning goal in the last minute and the interviewer says, did you ever imagine you would do that? And the polite answer is, no, of course not. But of course that kid imagined it. You know, that kid has scored that goal 1,000 times in his backyard. And so sure, I imagined that it could happen. The question is, did I expect it to happen? And no, not really, because the chances are so low that any particular book will take off, and the chances even lower that any series will sustain itself so long. So I didn't really expect it, but yeah, you bet I imagined it.
So Jack Reacher, he's your creation, you know. For people who wouldn't know about the books, I mean, shame on them for not knowing, who is your Jack Reacher? I mean, we see Tom Cruise as him in the film, but the question that's always asked, who is Jack Reacher to you?
Well, he is a mythic character. He's an ancient legend, the mysterious stranger, the noble loner who wanders the land, the knight errant, I guess you would call him. And he's shown up at every period of history, in every culture that we know about. And I leave him in the books fairly undefined. I want the reader's imagination to fill the gaps. And what's happened with this movie is that Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise together, their imaginations have fleshed out the character. And Tom Cruise is Jack Reacher. And I honestly, when I watched the movie, and I know this was Tom Cruise's intention, he does not want you to see a Tom Cruise movie. He wants you to see Jack Reacher walking and talking. And that was definitely the impression that I got, that this is actually Jack Reacher. And that was a thrill for me. It was a sort of out-of-body experience, because up to now it's entirely in my head, and now I'm seeing him on the screen. Totally works for me.
So obviously, going back to the book there, this movie is based on One Shot, which is the 9th book in the series. And you've said before that you think it's the perfect introduction to Jack Reacher on film. Why is that? Because the particular structure of that book, just for some reason, Reacher does not show up at the beginning. In the book, I think it's 30 or 40 pages before he shows up, which was a risk book writing-wise, but it happens to work very well for the movie, because by the time he showed up, we've had plenty of opportunity for people to talk about him, to introduce him to the audience. In other words, other people are saying he's this, he's that, and then he shows up. He doesn't have to explain himself. He's already established. So I think the structure of the story worked really well for the first movie, that it gave people a chance to be introduced to him before he appears, and then once he appears, he can just get on with what he does. And obviously that comes across very well on film at the start when we see the silent sequences, you know, as we're building up the story. Now, Christopher McQuarrie, obviously, he's a great screenwriter, and you said there are two people who can write Reacher, himself and you. Yeah. But obviously, you wouldn't have known that until you saw his script or read it yourself. So were you ever nervous about handing over your story to somebody else? It's like handing over a child, so to speak. Kinda, yeah, and you know, nervous a little bit, but I tried very hard to pick the right people. That's what I've always done every step of the way. It's just on a gut instinct, give it to the right people. And the producer, Don Granger, and then Christopher McQuarrie, I was 99% sure that they were the right people. And then, but really the moment for me was when I saw the first draft of Christopher's screenplay. And that was huge for me. I read that thing, and then I did something that I've really never done before, which is I read it again immediately back to back, because it was that good. And at that moment I knew, yeah, we have nailed this. This is done. This is fine. At that point, because to me it's all about the words. It's all about the story. And happily, so it is for Tom Cruise. Tom, he loves a great script. He understands a great script. He lives for the great script, and now he had one. And from that second onwards, I knew it's in the bag. And it must be amazing to see such iconic actors like Tom, like Robert Duvall, embodying your characters, bringing them to life on screen, and even bringing one of your own characters to life yourself in your little cameo as the desk sergeant. What was it like to be a part of your story? It was great, and that's the other thing, you know, it's not just about Tom Cruise. There's a great cast there: Rosamund Pike, Richard Jenkins, David Oyelowo.
Robert Duvall, perfect for that part. I mean, perfect. Could not be better. Werner Herzog is the bad guy. That's a completely off-the-wall casting decision that works brilliantly. I mean, this is a very strong ensemble cast, all working together on a very well-written story. So it's not a surprise that it's as good as it is.
Lee Child, it's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to seeing what's up next for Jack Reacher.
Me too. Thanks, Sarah.
They want me to run. Then I'm gonna finish this.
You're a little rusty, Mr. Reacher.
I have nothing to lose. And if you're smart, that scares you. He doesn't care about the law. He doesn't care about proof. He only cares about what's right.
Out of the car!